U.S. and coalition forces are deployed on nearly every continent every day. With that footprint comes the need to deploy, redeploy, and sustain military forces on a global scale. When those global movements require U.S. airlift, air refueling, or aeromedical evacuation assets, Air Mobility Command's 618th Tanker Airlift Control Center answers the call 24 hours a day, every day. The 618th Tanker Airlift Control Center, or TACC, is a 700-person organization at Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. They act as AMC's stateside hub for worldwide cargo and personnel airlift, air refueling, and aeromedical evacuation. It's the TACC's mission to prioritize, plan, schedule, and track AMC aircraft and AMC contracted aircraft anywhere in the world at any time.
The missions that TACC plans, schedules, and executes are validated tasks from U.S. Transportation Command, or U.S. Transcom, one of the major combatant commands that make up the joint U.S. military force.
Other combatant commands, such as U.S. Central Command, identify what they need, and U.S. Transcom decides whether supplies or capabilities will be moved by land, sea, air, or a combination of the three. If any sort of air movement is involved, the validated task is sent to the TACC for planning, allocation, and execution. Once a requirement comes into the TACC, it goes to one of three planning directorates, depending on the type of mission. The Global Channel Operations Directorate, or XOG, is responsible for scheduled passenger and channel cargo movement in the Defense Transportation System. The Current Operations Directorate, or XOO, is responsible for planning Special Assignment Airlift Missions, or SAMs, VIP airlift missions, and air refueling missions. The final planning directorate is the Global Readiness Directorate, or XOP, which plans missions for contingencies, aeromedical evacuation, large-scale military exercises, and humanitarian efforts around the world.
No matter which directorate has the lead, if it's an Air Force mobility mission moving people, equipment, or supplies from one theater of operations to another, TACC is the focal point for planning.
Once a mission is planned, it moves on to the Mobility Management Directorate, also known as the Barrel. The planned missions are tasked to an active duty unit or available air reserve component unit. There are 4 divisions in the Mobility Management Directorate, or XOB, which deal with different aspects of the air mobility mission. The Airlift Allocation Division allocates strategic airlift missions flown by the C-5 Galaxy and C-17 Globemaster III. In most cases, these missions are moving what is called outsized and oversized cargo.
The Tanker Allocation Division works to fulfill both long-range and short-range refueling requirements. These type of missions range from refueling cargo aircraft to refueling fighter jets that are flying across oceans to support overseas operations.
The Combat Delivery Division allocates C-130 Hercules missions. These include day-to-day airlift operations and also C-130 support for Joint Airborne Air Transportability Training, which is a joint training opportunity for Army airborne operations.
The last division we have in XOB is the Long Range Scheduling Division, which works to allocate missions for international trade shows, aerial demonstrations, test support, and significant joint and coalition exercises.
Once the mission is planned and a crew and aircraft are allocated to fly the mission, it moves to the Command and Control Directorate, also called XOC. They obtain diplomatic clearances, create flight plans for the air crews, and execute the missions from the TACC's 24/7 operations floor.
The operations floor tracks nearly 450 different missions daily, which means we're flight following all the AMC-controlled missions operating worldwide and finding solutions when missions get delayed due to anything from bad weather to maintenance issues.
It's TACC's job to keep missions moving. Sometimes the personnel on the operations floor make on-the-fly changes, such as when an urgent aeromedical evacuation requirement comes in. These are critically injured troops, or in many cases civilians, who need transportation to medical centers as soon as possible.
It's extremely rewarding working on the floor to realize that you do have such a vital impact to what's going on, especially aeromedical evacuation type stuff when you're getting somebody who needs urgent care back to the States, knowing that if you weren't involved in that process, that person may not make it. That's great.
There are a lot of things they have to think through in a very short amount of time, but it's all to keep the mission moving and delivering the passengers and cargo on time.
All actions on the operations floor are overseen by a colonel called the Director of Operations, also referred to as the Senior Controller. These seniors act as AMC's single point of contact for mission execution. They answer to anyone from the Joint Staff at the Pentagon to the National Military Command Center, or even the President. Priority number one is to keep the mission moving so that the warfighter or humanitarian operation gets what they need when they need it.
There are two other directorates in the 618th TACC who have a significant impact throughout the mission planning and execution process. These directorates are the Mission Support Directorate, which provides data, technology, and resource support, and the Global Mobility Weather Operations Directorate, which provides weather products, services, and briefings for mission planning and execution phases. Both play a vital role every day in keeping mobility missions moving. The missions that TACC plan and execute provide a variety of global impacts simultaneously. One mission could be supporting humanitarian operations, such as moving peacekeeping equipment into the Darfur region of the Sudan, while a completely different mission could be airdropping supplies to troops on a hillside in Afghanistan. While providing direct support to the warfighting operations is standard for the TACC, the organization can adjust at a moment's notice to meet the current circumstances affecting the world. For example, the 618th TACC directed multiple missions in support of relief operations after a tsunami struck American Samoa. The humanitarian impact was similar for Hurricanes Ike and Gustav in 2008, when TACC directed sorties delivered 1,379 tons of supplies and transported 9,045 residents to safety.
Bottom line, the 618th Tanker Airlift Control Center is Air Mobility Command's one-stop shop for planning, allocating, and executing worldwide air mobility missions. They move more than 2,000 tons of cargo and 6,000 passengers every single day in support of U.S. operations worldwide. If it's a mission that requires worldwide airlift, air refueling, or aeromedical evacuation, the men and women of TACC are here 24/7, 365 to answer the call.